So, when we talk about the rapture, there's this one big question that causes so much debate and honestly a lot of anxiety in Christian circles. What does it really mean to be ready? For a long time, it's felt like you have to pick one of two extremes. But today, we're going to explore a third path, one that kind of cuts right through the middle of all the usual arguments. And this is the question, right? What does it truly take? Is being rapture ready just about a one-time decision you made years ago? Or is it this constant grind, this state of always striving, trying to do more, be more, to somehow earn your spot? That's the tension we're jumping into. And this lays out those two big camps perfectly. On one side, you've got the grace alone idea. I've received the Lord, that's enough. And this can lead to a kind of complacency, right? But then on the other side, you've got works required, which creates this constant pressure, this feeling of, I need to do more, pray more, fast more, stop sinning. It's a recipe for burnout and anxiety, and a lot of people feel stuck between these two poles. So yeah, that brings us right into our first section, laying out this great debate. It's a huge theological tension that really truly affects how a believer lives their life every single day. But here's a thought. What if this whole grace versus works argument is just the wrong framework? The source material we're digging into today says the answer isn't about picking one of these two roads, it's about finding a third path altogether. So let's move on to section 2 and see what that path is, the gardener's secret work. This is where we get to the absolute heart of the idea that could solve this whole conflict. Okay, this quote from the source material just completely flips the script. It says, the only thing you can do is having the right disposition so that the gardener can work in you. Wow. All of a sudden, the focus isn't on what you do, it's about the posture of your heart. It's not about your works, but your willingness for the gardener to do his work in you. So, what is this right disposition? Well, think of it like this. It's not a checklist of things you have to do, and it's not some decision you made in the past. It's a continuous, right now, present tense state of surrender. It's about being willing every single day to let God, the gardener, come in and prune you, water you, and take care of you, the tree, so that you can actually bear fruit. It's a living relationship, not just a transaction. And this is where things get really intense. Let's look at section 3, an urgent call to flee, because the source makes it super clear that this isn't just some nice theological idea. It's critically important, especially right now. So according to the source, there's this unique urgency for our generation. It's like time is different for us. While past generations might have had their entire natural lives for this gardening process, the source says we're living in a special time lapse. Lifespans might be cut short, which means getting ready has to happen on a much faster timeline. It's presented as both a massive privilege and a serious warning. The story of Lot from the Bible is a perfect model for this. Let's break it down. First, you have the warning. Lot actually listened to the angels and took them seriously. Second, the fleeing. He committed his heart and started running, even though he was full of weaknesses. But here's the key, the stumbling. He was imperfect. He was struggling. He wasn't going to make it on his own. But, and this is everything, because his disposition was right, his heart was pointed in the right direction, we get the final step, the rescue. God's mercy steps in. It just shows that the requirement wasn't perfection. It was a committed heart that was moving forward. And then, of course, you've got the flip side, Lot's wife. Her looking back is the perfect symbol of a heart that's just not fully surrendered. It's a heart still clinging to the old ways, unwilling to completely let go of the world it's supposed to be leaving behind. It proves that the direction your heart is facing is what really, truly matters. Okay, so if it's all about our disposition, what does that actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Let's get practical in section 4, the daily sacrifice. The source gives us this really powerful picture. Think about it. Your body is a temple, and you are its priest. And what did the priests do in the Old Testament? They made sacrifices on the altar every single day. It wasn't a one-and-done thing. It was a constant, daily responsibility. So what are these daily sacrifices for us? Well, it's the parts of the flesh, that old self, that we're called to put on the altar. We're talking about the things you watch, the words you say, those old habits you know you need to shake, carnal ways of thinking or vices you've been clinging to for years. It's about consciously, actively choosing to give those things over to God. The book of Esther gives us another amazing analogy for this. You know the story. When the women were preparing to meet the king, they could pick whatever fancy things they wanted. But Esther did something different. She let the eunuch in charge advise her, trusting his judgment on how to get ready. The source compares that eunuch to the Holy Spirit. While everyone else was relying on their own ideas, Esther surrendered her will. So the question for us is, are we trying to spiritually dress ourselves, or are we letting the Holy Spirit actually prepare us for the King? All right, let's pull all these threads together in our final section, the straight path forward. And here we are, full circle, back to those two extremes we started with, but now we see them for what they really are. They're just ditches on either side of the real path. On one side, you've got the ditch of complacency, where grace is an excuse for doing nothing. On the other side, the ditch of fear, always driven by that nagging anxiety that you haven't done enough. The true path is this straight, balanced walk right down the middle, a path of constant, heartfelt surrender. And that's really the whole goal, to stay on that balanced path. It's like when you were a kid trying to walk on a curb. It's so easy to fall off to one side or the other. True readiness, from this perspective, is found in that steady, moment-by-moment walk with God, where you're avoiding the trap of legalism on one side and the trap of cheap grace on the other. And this brings us to the ultimate point of it all. When Adam first saw Eve, he shouted, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." The source suggests that this whole journey of surrender is about becoming so aligned with Christ, so in sync with Him, that He recognizes us in that same incredibly intimate way. It transforms readiness from something to be afraid of into the beautiful, hopeful preparation of a bride for her groom, all for the chance to hear those very words.